The gun barrel gleamed in the afternoon sun as Karen's trembling finger found the trigger. You think you can just expose yourself in front of decent families? Her voice cracked with rage and something darker fear behind her. A crowd of neighbors gathered, phones already recording. What they didn't know was that in 30 seconds, everything they believed about right and wrong would shatter like glass, and the real criminal would be revealed in the most shocking way possible. The chlorine-scented air shimmered with heat as Marcus Williams adjusted his goggles and prepared for his daily laps. At 28, he was a creature of habit. Same pool, same time, same routine that had kept him sane through the chaos of medical residency. Riverside Community Pool was usually empty at 2 p.m. on weekdays, which was exactly why he chose this time. He pulled off his shirt and tossed it onto the concrete, revealing the lean muscles earned through years of competitive swimming. The familiar ritual calmed his mind after another brutal 12-hour shift at County General. Excuse me. The sharp voice cut through the peaceful silence like a blade. Marcus turned to see a woman marching toward him, her face flushed red with indignation. She was perhaps 45, with perfectly styled blonde hair, and the kind of designer workout clothes that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Yes, Marcus kept his voice level, though something in her expression set off alarm bells. You cannot swim shirtless here. She planted herself between him and the pool, arms crossed. There are families around. Children. Marcus glanced around the empty pool area, then back at her. Ma'am, there's literally no one else here. And men swim shirtless at public pools all the time. Not here, they don't. Her voice rose an octave. This is a family facility. We have standards. A cold understanding began to creep up Marcus's spine. He'd encountered this before, the barely concealed disgust. The manufactured outrage, the way certain people looked at his dark skin and saw only what they wanted to see. I've been coming here for 2 years, he said carefully. I've never had a problem before. Well, you have one now. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling security. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. After everything, for years of college, for years of medical school, residency at one of the most prestigious programs in the state, he was still fighting battles he thought belonged to previous generations. Go ahead and call them, he said. Diving cleanly into the pool, the water embraced him like an old friend, cool and welcoming. He began his laps with measured strokes, trying to let the rhythm wash away his anger. But even underwater, he could hear her voice growing more shrill. Yes, there's a man here, a black man, and he's exposing himself inappropriately. Marcus surfaced at the shallow end, water streaming from his face. The woman Karen he'd decided to call her was pacing frantically while talking into her phone. He's being aggressive and refusing to leave. Send someone immediately, ma'am. Marcus kept his voice calm despite the rage building in his chest. I'm not exposing myself. I'm swimming, like thousands of other men do every day. Don't you ma'am me? She whirled around, pointing an accusatory finger. I know what you're doing. You're here to make decent people uncomfortable. Well, it won't work. Other people were beginning to arrive now early for the afternoon family swim. A few mothers with children in tow stopped short when they saw the confrontation. What's going on? Asked a brunette woman carrying pool toys. This man, Karen gestured dramatically at Marcus, is swimming inappropriately in front of children. I've asked him to leave, but he refuses. The brunette looked confused. He's just swimming, shirtless. Karen's voice cracked. In a family area, but the brunette glanced around at the other men who had begun arriving, several of them already shirtless. All the guys swim shirtless here. Karen's face went even redder. That's different. The top words hung in the air like a poison cloud. Marcus felt something die inside him, some last vestige of hope that maybe, just maybe, he could go about his life without being reminded that to some people, he would always be different, always be dangerous, always be wrong, simply by existing. Different how? The brunette's voice had turned cold, but before Karen could answer, a security guard jogged up, a young white guy who looked barely old enough to shave. Ma'am, what seems to be the problem? Thank God you're here. Karen clutched the guard's arm. This man is exposing himself and being threatening. I want him removed immediately. The guard looked at Marcus treading water in the pool, then at the gathering crowd of increasingly hostile onlookers. Sir, could you step out of the pool, please? Marcus felt his last thread of patience snap. Are you serious right now? Just step out, and we can talk about what? About my crime of swimming. While the crowd stirred. Phones appeared, cameras rolling. Karen stepped closer to the guard, lowering her voice, but not enough. You see how aggressive he's being? This is exactly what I was talking about. Marcus hauled himself out of the pool, water cascading off his shoulders. The guard instinctively stepped back, and that small motion, that unconscious flinch, told Marcus everything he needed to know about how this was going to end. Sir, I'm going to need to see some ID for swimming, for trespassing. The word hit Marcus like a physical blow. Around them, the crowd had grown larger. Some faces showed sympathy, others curiosity, but to many reflected Karen's mixture of fear and satisfaction that made his stomach turn. I have a membership, Marcus said, reaching for his bag. Don't reach for anything. The guard's hand moved to his radio. Keep your hands visible. The absurdity of it would have been funny if it wasn't so terrifying. Marcus, who had spent the morning saving lives in the ER, who had graduated summa cum laude, who paid taxes and voted and had never so much as received a speeding ticket, was being treated like a criminal for the crime of swimming. "This is insane," he said, but he raised his hands anyway. Karen pulled out her own phone and began recording. You see how he's acting? This is exactly why we need to protect our community." "Protect it from what?" The brunette woman stepped forward. "From a doctor trying to swim laps." Karen whirled on her. "How do you know he's a doctor? He could be anyone. He could be dangerous, because he's wearing scrubs in his bag, and his ID badge is right there on his towel." But Karen wasn't listening anymore. She was scrolling through her phone with manic intensity. "I'm calling the police," she announced. "This has gone far enough." The police? Marcus felt ice water in his veins. For swimming, for trespassing, for threatening behavior, for public indecency. Each accusation was more absurd than the last, but Marcus knew it didn't matter. He'd seen too many news stories, heard too many warnings from his father, lived through too many moments exactly like this one. The guard was nodding along with Karen's lies, and more security was arriving. The crowd was growing restless, divided between those filming the injustice and those who seemed to buy into Karen's hysteria. Marcus reached slowly for his towel, every movement deliberate and unthreatening. But as he bent down, Karen's voice rose to a shriek. "He's reaching for something. Stop him." The second security guard rushed forward and Marcus found himself surrounded. His heart hammered against his ribs as he realized how quickly this was spiraling out of control. "I'm just getting my towel," he said, but even to his own ears, his voice sounded strained. Karen's phone call connected. "Yes, I need police at Riverside Community Pool immediately. There's a black male here who's been threatening families and exposing himself to children. He's becoming violent and we need help right now." The lies poured out of her mouth like water from a broken dam, each one more elaborate than the last. Marcus stood frozen, towel in hand, surrounded by security guards and a crowd of strangers who were recording what might become the last normal moments of his life. "Ma'am, please." The brunette woman tried again. "You're making this. Stay out of this." Karen spun around, and for the first time, Marcus saw something that chilled him more than her anger. Her eyes held a wild gleam, the look of someone who had passed beyond reason into pure destructive fury. She reached into her designer purse. The world slowed to a crawl as Karen's hand emerged, clutching a small silver pistol. Screams erupted from the crowd as people scattered, but Marcus found himself frozen in place, staring down the barrel of a gun held by a woman who believed his very existence was a crime. "Nobody move." Karen's voice was steady now, deadly calm. "I'm a licensed gun owner, and I'm protecting my community from a dangerous criminal." The security guards had their hands up, backing away slowly. The brunette woman was herding children behind the snack bar. Everyone else was either running or diving for cover behind pool chairs and umbrellas, but Marcus couldn't move. It's a moment his parents had warned him about. The situation every black man in America knew might someday find him. All because he'd wanted to swim laps after a long shift saving lives. "You brought this on yourself," Karen said, the gun trembling slightly in her grip. "If you had just left when I asked nicely, none of this would have happened." Marcus met her eyes across the space between them, and in that moment, he made a choice that would change everything. "You're right," he said quietly. "I should have left." Karen's expression flickered with surprise and something that might have been relief. The red laser dots danced across Marcus's chest like deadly fireflies as 6 officers surrounded the pool area, weapons drawn. Time crystallized into sharp, brutal clarity, the smell of chlorine mixing with fierce sweat, the sound of Karen's ragged breathing, the weight of a dozen camera phones documenting what could become his final moments. The command boomed across the concrete, but it wasn't directed at Karen. Marcus felt his blood turn to ice as he realized the officers' guns were trained on him. "I don't have a weapon," he shouted back, hands raised high above his head. "She's the one with the gun." But Karen had already shifted position, angling herself so that from the officer's perspective, the pistol was partially concealed behind her body. To them, it looked like Marcus was the aggressor, a shirtless black man towering over a terrified white woman. "He's got something in his hand," Karen screamed, her voice cracking with manufactured terror. "Please help me." Detective Ray Kowalski, 20-year veteran of the force, squinted through the chaos. From his angle, he could see the woman was holding something, but the crowd's positioning made it impossible to tell what. What he could see clearly was a large black male in what appeared to be a threatening stance over a cowering female victim. "Sir, get on the ground now," Kowalski barked. Marcus's medical training kicked in, his mind cataloging the tactical situation with clinical precision. 6 officers, high-stress situation, poor sightlines, and a woman who had already demonstrated she was willing to lie too. Get him killed. The statistics flashed through his consciousness. He had a better chance of surviving surgery with a severed artery than talking his way out of this alive. "Officer, please listen to me," Marcus called out, his voice steady, despite the terror clawing at his throat. "My name is Dr. Marcus Williams. I'm a resident at County General. I was swimming when this woman pulled a gun on me. The witnesses can confirm, shut up and get down. The brunette woman who had tried to defend him earlier pushed forward from behind the snack bar, her children clinging to her legs. Officers, wait, you've got it wrong, she yelled. The woman has the gun. She's been threatening him. But her voice was lost in the chaos as more squad cars arrived, sirens wailing. The pool area had become a war zone, with panicked families, huddled behind whatever cover they could find. Karen's eyes darted between the officers and the growing crowd of witnesses. Marcus could see the calculation happening behind her gaze. She was realizing that her initial story was falling apart, that too many people had seen the truth, so she did what cornered predators do. She evolved. He grabbed my gun, she suddenly screamed, pointing at Marcus with her free hand while keeping the pistol low against her hip. I was trying to protect myself and he grabbed my gun. I can't let go. It was brilliant in its simplicity. Now she had an explanation for why she was holding the weapon, why Marcus appeared threatening, and why the victim was armed instead of the perpetrator. Detective Kowalski's finger tightened on his trigger. The situation was escalating beyond containment, and in his experience, these scenarios ended one of two ways, with someone in handcuffs or someone in a body bag. Ma'am, we need you to let go of the weapon and step away. I can't. Karen's performance was Oscar-worthy, tears streaming down her face. He's too strong. He won't let me. Marcus felt the world tilting off its axis. Every second that passed increased the likelihood that a nervous officer would make a split-second decision that would end his life. But something in Karen's eyes, a flash of triumph, a gleam of satisfaction ignited a cold fury in his chest. She was enjoying this. You know what? Marcus said, his voice carrying across the pool area with surgical precision. You're absolutely right. I should get down on the ground. He began to kneel slowly, his movements deliberate and non-threatening. The officers relaxed slightly, their weapons tracking his descent. But before I do, Marcus continued, his voice growing stronger, I want everyone to understand exactly what's happening here. Stop talking, Kowalski shouted. A doctor, a man who spent today saving lives, came to swim laps after a 12-hour shift. A woman decided he didn't belong here because of the color of his skin. When he wouldn't leave, she called the police and lied. When that wasn't enough, she pulled a gun. And when witnesses started recording her crimes, she decided to frame the victim. Karen's face went white. That's not. The cameras don't lie. Karen, Marcus was on one knee now, his hands still raised, and your performance has been recorded by at least 15 different phones from multiple angles. He looked directly at Detective Kowalski. Officer, I'm going to reach very slowly into my bag for my medical ID. You can see the bag from where you're standing. I'm not armed, I'm not dangerous, and I'm not the criminal here. Don't you move. Kowalski barked. But there was uncertainty in his voice now. Sarah Chen, Riverside Elementary teacher, Marcus called out, spotting a woman he recognized from previous pool visits. You know me. Tell them who I am. Sarah stepped forward shakily. Officers, that's Dr. Williams. He's a good man. He helped my daughter when she had an asthma attack here last month. The woman with the gun, she's been screaming at him for swimming without a shirt. More voices joined in. He was just doing laps. She called him terrible names. She pulled the gun first. The chorus of witnesses was breaking through narrative like sunlight through storm clouds. Detective Kowalski's eyes darted between the crowd and the scene in front of him, pieces clicking into place. But Karen wasn't finished. Cornered animals are most dangerous when they have nothing left to lose. They're all lying, she shrieked, raising the gun higher. They're protecting him because they're all against people like me, against decent, law-abiding citizens. The mask was slipping now, revealing the raw hatred beneath. Marcus saw several officers exchange glances. They were beginning to understand the real situation. Ma'am, I need you to put the weapon down, Kowalski said, his tone shifting. We can sort this out, but you need to lower the gun. No. Karen's voice cracked like breaking glass. You don't understand. People like him, they're dangerous. They don't belong in places like this. Lady? Places like what? The voice came from Officer Janet Martinez, who had just arrived on scene. She was a 25-year veteran, Latina, and had zero patience for this particular brand of stupidity. It's a public pool. You don't get it either. Karen whirled toward Martinez, the gun swinging wildly. None of you understand what we're dealing with. That's when everything went sideways. As Karen turned, her fingers slick with sweat and adrenaline. On the trigger, the gunshot cracked like thunder across the pool area, echoing off the concrete and water. The bullet went wide, shattering a poolside lamp, but the effect was instantaneous. Children screamed, parents dove for cover, and every police officer's training kicked into overdrive. Gun, Martinez shouted, diving behind a concrete planter, but Marcus was already moving. His medical training had included trauma scenarios, and he'd seen enough gunshot wounds to know that in enclosed spaces, ricochets and panic kills more people than direct hits. His only thought was protecting the civilians, especially the children who were caught in the crossfire. He lunged, not away from Karen, but toward her, his hands reaching for the weapon to prevent another accidental discharge. It was the right thing to do, the heroic thing to do, and the thing that would have gotten him killed if not for what happened next. Karen, seeing Marcus moving toward her, screamed and stumbled backward directly into the deep end of the pool. The woman who had been so concerned about inappropriate swimming couldn't swim. She hit the water with a tremendous splash. Still clutching the gun, her expensive workout clothes instantly waterlogged and dragging her down. The pistol fired again as she flailed, the bullet going harmlessly into the pool's concrete wall. Marcus didn't hesitate. Despite everything she had done, the lies, the hatred, the attempt to destroy his life, his medical oath kicked in. He dove into the pool after her. The water was chaos. Karen thrashed wildly, driven by panic and the weight of her clothes. The gun had been lost somewhere in the depths. Marcus fought against her desperate flailing, using his lifeguard training from college to approach from behind and lock his arm across her chest. "Stop fighting me," he gasped as they surfaced. "I'm trying to save you." But Karen was beyond reason. She clawed at his face, screaming incoherently about being attacked. Even as he towed her toward the shallow end out above them, the officers had finally grasped the situation. Detective Kowalski was shouting orders, coordinating a search for the dropped weapon while other officers worked to clear the area and secure witnesses. Marcus hauled Karen to the pool's edge, where Officer Martinez waited to pull her out. As soon as she was on dry land, she was cuffed and read her rights for assault with a deadly weapon, filing false police reports, and reckless endangerment. But even as they placed her in the back of a squad car, Karen's voice carried across the pool area. "This isn't over. You people think you can just take over everything, but there are more of us than you think. We won't let you destroy our way of life." Marcus stood dripping at poolside, watching the woman who had tried to have him killed being driven away. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving him shaky and nauseous. Detective Kowalski approached him with The video had 23 million views by the time Marcus walked into County General at 6 a.m. the next morning. #Pulchrin was trending worldwide, his face was on every news channel, and his phone had died twice from the constant stream of calls, texts, and notifications. Dr. Sarah Hendricks, the chief of emergency medicine, was waiting for him at the nurse's station with an expression he couldn't read. "My office." Now, Marcus followed her down the hallway, acutely aware of the stares from colleagues and staff. Some looked sympathetic, others curious, but a few held expressions that made his stomach clench with familiar dread. Dr. Hendricks closed the door and gestured to a chair. She was a woman in her 50s who had fought her own battles to reach the top of a male-dominated field, and Marcus had always respected her no-nonsense approach. "So," she said, settling behind her desk, "you've had quite a 24 hours. That's one way to put it. The hospital board held an emergency meeting this morning." She leaned forward, her fingers steepled. "There are concerns about the publicity affecting our reputation." Marcus felt ice water in his veins. "Concerns about what, exactly? That one of your doctors was the victim of a hate crime? Concerns about controversy? About taking sides in politically charged situations?" Politically charged. Marcus's voice rose despite his efforts to stay calm. "Dr. Hendricks, a woman pulled a gun on me for swimming. How is that political? Because you've become a symbol, Marcus. And symbols are complicated for institutions like this." Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed with an urgent text from his neighbor. "Your apartment building is surrounded by news trucks. Protesters too. Both sides. It's getting ugly." Dr. Hendricks noticed his expression. "There's more. We've received dozens of calls since the story broke. Some supporting you, but others, .. She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Others questioning whether someone involved in such incidents should be treating their families." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. "Are you suspending me? I'm suggesting you take some time off. Let things cool down. Let things cool down." Marcus repeated the words slowly. "So the victim gets punished while the woman who committed assault with a deadly weapon gets exactly what she wanted me gone." "That's not a sharp knock," interrupted her. Dr. James Patterson, the hospital's PR director, burst in without waiting for permission. His usually perfect appearance was disheveled, his tie askew. "We have a problem," he announced, then stopped short when he saw Marcus. "Oh, you're here? What kind of problem?" Dr. Hendricks asked. Patterson glanced nervously at Marcus. "Maybe we should discuss this privately." "Say it," Marcus interrupted. "Whatever it is, just say it." Patterson pulled out his tablet and turned it toward him. On the screen was a news report from Channel 7, featuring a blonde anchor with perfectly applied makeup and dead eyes. "New developments in the viral pool incident," she was saying. "We've learned that Dr. Marcus Williams, the man involved in yesterday's confrontation, has a history of aggressive behavior that the mainstream media isn't reporting." Marcus leaned forward, his heart pounding. "What history?" The report cut to grainy security footage from what appeared to be a convenience store. The timestamp showed a date from 3 years ago. In the video, a figure that could have been Marcus was involved in what looked like a physical altercation near the checkout counter. Sources tell us this video shows Dr. Williams in a violent confrontation with a store clerk over a disputed charge. The anchor continued, The incident was reportedly covered up by hospital administrators who didn't want negative publicity. Marcus stared at the screen in disbelief. "That's not me. Are you sure?" Patterson asked. "Because it's very convincing, and it's spreading fast on social media. I'm positive it's not me, because 3 years ago I was doing my surgery rotation in Boston. I have hospital records, apartment leases, credit card statements." "Doesn't matter," Patterson interrupted. "The narrative is already out there. Violent doctor attacks innocent woman. The details don't matter to people who want to believe it." Dr. Hendricks rubbed her temples. "Who's behind this?" "That's the thing," Patterson said, his voice dropping. "The story originated from something called the Citizens for Community Safety. Ever heard of them?" Marcus shook his head, but something cold was crawling up his spine. "They're a grassroots organization dedicated to protecting family values and community standards." Patterson read from his tablet, founded 6 months ago, funded by anonymous donors. "And apparently, they've decided you're their enemy number 1. Marcus's phone rang. The caller ID showed his father's number. "Dad, son, you need to get out of there." His father's voice was tight with worry. "There are people outside your building with signs. Some of them are angry, and they're not all on your side." Through Dr. Hendricks' office window, Marcus could see the hospital parking lot. News vans were setting up, and small groups of people were gathering with signs and banners. "How did they find out where I work so fast?" "The internet, son. Everything's public now." His father paused. "Marcus, your mother's scared. We've been getting calls too. People saying terrible things." The realization hit Marcus like a sledgehammer. This wasn't just about him anymore. They were going after his family. Dr. Hendricks was watching the parking lot too. "We need to get you out of here through the back entrance." "I'm not running," Marcus said firmly. "I didn't do anything wrong." "Sometimes being right isn't enough," she replied. "Sometimes survival matters more than principles." But it was already too late. Marcus's phone was buzzing with alerts from a news app. The story had evolved again, and this time the headline made his blood run cold. "Breaking armed doctor threatens woman and police at local pool. Disturbing video emerges of past violence." The accompanying video wasn't the real footage from the pool. It was a deepfake sophisticated enough to fool casual viewers, showing Marcus grabbing Karen's gun and pointing it at the police officers. The technology was getting better every day, and most people wouldn't look close enough to spot the subtle distortions that marked it as fake. "Jesus," Patterson whispered. "This is professional-level disinformation." Marcus sank into his chair as the full scope of what was happening became clear. This wasn't just about one racist woman at a pool. Karen had been connected to something bigger, something organized, something that had been waiting for exactly this kind of opportunity. His phone rang again. This time it was his lawyer. "Marcus, don't say anything to anyone. The district attorney's office just called. They're considering charges against me. Assault, terroristic threats, and interference with police operations. Based on new evidence that's emerged, the evidence is fake." "Can you prove that?" "Because we're about to find out how hard it is to fight a lie that looks like truth." Through the window, Marcus watched the crowd in the parking lot growing larger. Signs reading "Protect our families" and No more violence" mixed with others that simply said "Justice for Karen." Karen, who had pulled a gun on an innocent man. Karen, who had filed false police reports. Karen, who was somehow becoming the victim in a story where she was clearly the aggressor. Dr. Hendricks stood up. "Marcus, I'm officially placing you on administrative leave pending investigation of these new allegations. You're firing me based on fake evidence. I'm protecting the hospital, and maybe protecting you too, whether you realize it or not." Marcus felt his world crumbling around him. Yesterday he had been a respected doctor, a man with a bright future, someone who saved lives for a living. Now he was unemployed, under investigation, and being hunted by an organization with unlimited resources and no regard for truth. But as he sat in that office watching his career dissolve, something else was happening. His phone was buzzing with messages from people he'd never met, doctors from other hospitals, civil rights lawyers, activists, and ordinary citizens who had seen the real footage and understood what was happening. "Dr. Williams," one message read, "My name is Angela Morrison, and I'm an investigative journalist with the Washington Post. I've been tracking the Citizens for Community Safety, and what happened to you is part of a much larger pattern. We need to talk." Another Marcus. "This is Dr. Patricia Washington from Johns Hopkins. Our hospital is prepared to offer you a position if you need to relocate. Don't let them win." And another. "Hey doc, I'm a computer forensics expert who specializes in deepfakes. That video of you is fake, and I can prove it, free of charge." As Marcus read through the messages, he realized something that the people trying to destroy him hadn't counted on. The truth has its own power, and sometimes fighting back is the only way to survive. He stood up, straightening his shoulders. "Dr. Hendricks, I understand your position, but I want you to know something. I'm going to fight this. Not just for me, but for every person who's ever been targeted by people like this. Marcus, be careful. These people play for keeps, *, as he walked out of the hospital for what might be the last time. Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced since the whole nightmare began. Determination. They had picked the wrong target, used the wrong weapon, and underestimated the wrong man. But as he reached his car, he found a note tucked under the windshield wiper. 5 words in block letters that made his determination waver. 3 weeks later, Marcus sat in the cramped office of Morrison & Associates, watching Angela Morrison pace behind her desk like a caged tiger. The investigative journalist had been working around the clock, and it showed empty coffee cups littered her workspace. Case files covered every surface, and her usually immaculate appearance had given way to the rumpled intensity of someone pursuing the story of a lifetime. "We've got them," she said, turning her laptop screen toward Marcus. "All of them." The evidence spread across her monitor was devastating. Bank records showing payments from a shell company to Karen Patterson, her real last name, not the Karen Miller she'd given police. Social media posts coordinating the deepfake video release. Email chains discussing Project Cleanup, which specifically targeted problematic minorities in professional positions. But it was the final piece that made Marcus's hands shake as he read it. "Citizens for Community Safety isn't grassroots," Angela explained. "It's funded by Whitmore Industries Real Estate Development, private prisons, and political consulting, run by Thomas Whitmore III, whose father made his fortune during redlining and whose grandfather was a documented KKK member." Marcus studied the organizational chart Angela had compiled. The scope was staggering, a network spanning 12 states, with local chapters that appeared independent but were actually coordinated by a central command structure. "Karen wasn't just some random racist," he said. "The pieces finally clicking together. She was a plant. Recruited 6 months ago when you started swimming at that pool. They've been watching you, Marcus. You fit their target profile perfectly. Black professional, visible in the community, someone whose fall would send a message." The office door opened, and Dr. Patricia Washington entered with 2 men Marcus didn't recognize. One was tall and distinguished with silver hair, the other younger and wearing an expensive suit that screamed federal law enforcement. "Marcus," Dr. Washington said, "I'd like you to meet FBI Special Agent David Chen and Attorney General Deputy Chief Michael Brooks." Agent Chen sat down across from Marcus, his expression grave. "Dr. Williams, your case has become part of a federal investigation into organized hate crimes and domestic terrorism. The Citizens for Community Safety is being run as a sophisticated psychological operation designed to identify, target, and destroy prominent minority professionals." "How many others?" Marcus asked. 17 that we've confirmed so far," Brooks replied. "Doctors, lawyers, teachers, engineers, all Black or Latino professionals who were systematically targeted using variations of the same playbook they used on you." Angela pulled up another file. "The beauty of their operation is plausible deniability. Karen appears to be acting alone, just another racist having a bad day. The deepfake technology makes it impossible for most people to distinguish truth from lies, and the media narrative gets shaped by coordinated social media campaigns that look organic but aren't." Marcus felt sick. "What happened to the others?" 3 committed suicide, Agent Chen said quietly. 5 lost their jobs and never recovered professionally. 4 relocated and changed careers. 2 are still fighting, but their lives have been destroyed. You're the first to become a federal case because you fought back publicly. There's more," Angela added. "Thomas Whitmore has political ambitions. He's planning to run for governor next year on a law and order platform. Your case was supposed to be a centerpiece, the dangerous Black doctor who threatened an innocent white woman, proving that affirmative action and liberal policies put real Americans at risk." Dr. Washington leaned forward. "That's why we're here, Marcus. We want you to help us bring them down." Agent Chen opened his briefcase and pulled out a sophisticated recording device. "Whitmore is hosting a private fundraiser tomorrow night. High-dollar donors, political allies, and the core leadership of Citizens for Community Safety. We have intelligence that he's planning to use your case as the evening's featured presentation." "You want me to go undercover?" "We want you to be yourself," Brooks corrected. "Our inside source can get you in as catering staff. You'll be invisible, just another Black man in a service position, but you'll be recording everything." Marcus studied the device. It was smaller than a button, designed to look like a shirt. "Stud, this is insane." "So is what they did to you?" Dr. Washington replied. "And what they're planning to do to others?" Angela pulled up a final document. "Marcus, they have a list. Names, photos, background information on 2 minority professionals across the country, teachers who spoke out about curriculum changes, lawyers who took civil rights cases, doctors who treated undocumented immigrants. You were just the test case." The weight of it crashed over Marcus like a wave. This wasn't about him anymore. It never really had been. He was a symbol they'd chosen to destroy, and his destruction was meant to terrorize hundreds of others into silence. "If I do this," he said slowly, "and something goes wrong, ... Something's already gone wrong," Agent Chen replied. "The question is whether we're going to let it get worse." Marcus looked around the room at the faces staring back at him. These people had risked their careers, their safety, their futures, to expose a truth that most of America wasn't ready to hear, that the hatred he'd experienced wasn't random, wasn't isolated, but was part of a coordinated campaign to roll back decades of progress. What exactly do you need me to record? The Whitmore estate sat on 50 acres of manicured grounds in the most exclusive part of the county. Marcus adjusted his catering uniform and checked the recording device. One final time as the van approached the service entrance, his hands were steady, but his heart hammered against his ribs. Remember, Agent Chen's voice crackled through his nearly invisible earpiece. You're just collecting evidence. Don't engage, don't confront, don't do anything that might blow your cover. The catering supervisor, a middle-aged Hispanic woman named Rosa, gave Marcus a sympathetic look as they unloaded serving trays. Keep your head down, do your job, and pretend you don't speak English if anyone tries to talk to you, she whispered. These people, ... they don't see us as human. The main ballroom was a monument to old money crystal chandeliers, marble floors, oil paintings of Whitmore ancestors who had built their fortune on the backs of enslaved people. About 200 guests mingled an evening where that cost more than most people's cars. Their laughter echoing off walls lined with Confederate memorabilia disguised as heritage pieces. Marcus moved through the crowd invisibly, refilling champagne glasses and clearing plates while the recording device captured every conversation. The casual racism was breathtaking jokes about urban youth, complaints about diversity hires, and nostalgic references to the way things used to be. But it was the conversation at the head table that made his blood run cold. Thomas Whitmore III was exactly what Marcus had expected: tall, silver-haired with the kind of practiced charm that masked a core of pure malice. He was holding court, with a circle of supporters, and Marcus recognized several faces from news programs, a congressman, to state senators, and a federal judge. The Williams operation exceeded all expectations, Whitmore was saying as Marcus approached to refill water glasses. We turned a simple swimming incident into a national conversation about black violence and the failure of affirmative action. Congressman Bradley Webb, a man whose family values campaign had won him 3 terms, laughed appreciatively. The deepfake was brilliant. Most people still think it's real. Technology is the future of political warfare, Whitmore replied. Why debate policy when you can simply destroy your opponent's credibility? The Williams case proves we can take down any minority professional, anywhere, anytime. Judge Margaret Holloway, whose confirmation had been controversial due to her past statements about racial bias in sentencing, raised her glass to project cleanup and to making sure people like Williams know their place. The toast sent a chill down Marcus's spine, but he forced himself to keep moving, to keep recording. This was exactly what they needed: direct evidence of conspiracy, of coordination, of intentional targeting. But as he moved toward the next table, Marcus heard something that stopped him cold. Phase 2 launches next month, Whitmore continued. We've identified targets in education, healthcare, and law enforcement. The goal is to create a climate of fear that will discourage minorities from seeking leadership positions. What about the families? Asked a woman Marcus didn't recognize. Collateral damage, Whitmore shrugged. If they can't handle the pressure, they shouldn't have put themselves in the spotlight. Marcus thought about his parents, about the threatening phone calls they'd received, about his mother's fear every time she left the house. These people weren't just targeting professionals, they were terrorizing entire families. The beauty of the operation, Webb added, is that we're using their own liberal values against them. They believe in due process, in giving people the benefit of the doubt, in institutional fairness. We exploit those weaknesses. And the media? Holloway asked. Useful idiots? Whitmore laughed. They're so desperate for clicks and ratings that they'll amplify anything controversial. We don't need to control the narrative, we just need to muddy the waters enough that people stop believing in objective truth. Marcus was moving closer now, the recording Davy